Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Swedish on the home side, half German on the away side. Both of these breweries have featured on the channel before, albeit the Swedish brewery far more often than the German one. And when it comes to these two breweries, I would say the Swedish one is one of the best known names in Swedish craft beer these days. They're a very solid all-round brewery in my opinion. Originally best known for their big imperial stouts and their fruity sour beers, but in recent times they've diversified quite a lot and they're doing lots of different styles, whereas the German brewery is actually best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, and they've really built their name on that style actually, one of the first breweries in Germany to do so. If memory serves me correctly, I haven't done a solo brewery beer review for those guys, so this is something that I do want to make happen at some point in the near future because I know their beers are very good. But when it comes to the beer itself, this one is a style that I know both breweries can do very well. It is a style that I quite enjoy as well actually. There's lots of them out there these days, and it's also one of the home brewery's latest releases through Systembolaget here in Sweden as well. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get that Gothenburg catchphrase in when we're reviewing Gothenburg beers because it is just channel tradition these days. But for this review we're going to go a little bit out to the east of the city, to Landvetter, and we're going to have a look then at another beer from the wonderful Dugges Bryggeri. So this particular beer is called Cosmic Edgeland. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and this is another New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. But it also happens to be brewed in collaboration with Fuerst Wiacek, who are from Berlin, down in Germany. And like I say, this is a brewery that we do need to feature a little bit more on the channel going forward. But yeah, this beer was released as part of the Lokalt with Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for February of 2023, and they released this along with another IPA which you'll see me feature on the channel in a few videos time, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, the Cosmic Edgeland from Dugges Bryggeri in Landvetter in collaboration with Fuerst Wiacek in Berlin in Germany. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Dugges Bryggeri before, and my other reviews as well that I've done involving Fuerst Wiacek. Like I say, we will add more to both of those lists going forward, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer based on the geography tagging system. Just go into the homepage, use the search bar, put your hometown, state, county, whatever you like in there. If I've reviewed beers from the area you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries, and you'll find this one in both the Swedish and the German playlist because it is dual nationality, and there are playlists of beers from many different countries in there too. But yeah, let's go on with this one and see what we have. We'll go on to my brewery notes then before we taste the beer. So, Dugges Bryggeri first, since these guys are the home brewery in this case. But yeah, Dugges Bryggeri, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Landvetter on the outskirts of Gothenburg in Sweden, and this brewery was originally established back in 2005 down in Mölndal to the south of Gothenburg by Mikael Engström Dugge, whom of course it takes its name from. But a few years prior to this, Mikael had met an Englishman who was selling second-hand brew kits, and this really got him thinking about brewing his own beer. So he started home brewing a little bit, but he also studied the Swedish alcohol laws, he visited other breweries around the country, and then he started buying up equipment to put together his own facility, and this culminated with the opening of the first brewery down in Mölndal back in 2005. Over the following years, he continued to develop recipes, build up his sales and build up his reputation, and by 2009 the brewery had outgrown this original facility, and so they moved to Landvetter the next year in 2010. The older brewery had a capacity of 1,500 hectolitres per year at maximum, so about 150,000 litres. However, the new brewery started off with a capacity of 8,000 hectolitres of beer per year, so that's about 800,000 litres. And this has been more than doubled in recent years, perhaps even tripled actually. Over the years, the brewery, in the early years I should say, the brewery became very well known for their big imperial stouts and their fruity sours, and they also started investing quite heavily in barrel aging from an early stage too. I guess you could say Dugges Bryggeri are one of the pioneers of barrel aging when it comes to the Swedish craft beer scene. But in more recent times, they have been diversifying quite a lot, and they're producing a lot of different kinds of IPAs these days. Until recently, they had a lot of different series of beers. They had the Fresh and the Crush series, which were the different kinds of New England IPAs. There was the Bite series as well, which was the West Coasters. They also had a series of wheat beers, and they've also got the Future series, which is the barrel-aged one, and also the Mega series, which is the high alcohol barrel-aged series as well. So they've got lots of different things that they do, and as I said to you before, Dugges Bryggeri are just very well rounded when it comes to craft beer and brewing and stuff like this. They do lots and lots of different things. But yeah, these guys are also one of the co-owners of the Dugges, the Brewers Beer Bar, of which there are two in Gothenburg. The original one is on Tredje Långgatan. They own these along with All In Brewing, who are one of the numerous gypsy breweries operating in the Gothenburg area, and also the Electric Nurse Brewery, which is run by Mikael's daughter Ida and her husband John. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's too much to tell you about Dugges Bryggeri. Over the years, they've done some really, really nice beers, and I guess two of the classic ones that I would really recommend you try would be the Egypt, or the Big Egypt, the Big Imperial Stout, but also the Tropic Thunder, which was one of the really kind of cult classic Swedish sour beers actually. That was brewed in collaboration with Stillwater Artisanal from Baltimore in Maryland over in the US. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Dugges Bryggeri for the moment. Like I say, a very well respected and well known name when it comes to the Swedish craft beer scene. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can, of course, check out the Untappd page to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. Although I would point out that I think the Untappd page is not up to date with all the beers that these guys have produced. There are quite a few, I think, that are not on there, because it says they've only produced 55 beers, and I know that for a fact that is wrong when it comes to Dugges. But yeah, anyway, let's go on to the German side of things then. So Fuerst Wiacek. So Fuerst Wiacek were originally a gypsy brewer, but these days they're based in Berlin, and the company was founded back in 2015 by Lukas Wiacek and Georg Fuerst, whom of course it's named after. But Georg has a background in digital media and operations, whereas Lukas worked with web and graphic design, and he was also a very keen rally and racing driver, and apparently he won a camel from a Germany to Jordan rally, which is kind of interesting. But apparently Lukas and Georg wanted to make whiskey together, and they also experimented with liqueurs. But they took a course at Beer Lab in Friedrichshain in Berlin and learned how to cook wort for the whiskey, while also trying their hand at brewing some beer. But they did manage to produce whiskey, but found the beer they could make was considerably better than the whiskey they produced. But Lukas actually went on to do a number of internships at breweries such as Pohjola in Estonia, Beavertown in London, and also Boneyard over in Oregon in the US. But he also took part in a few brews at Half Acre in Chicago, and then at Caracal Brewery in Jordan as well. But in early 2016, they produced their first large-scale beer at the Old Camber Brewery in Gundelfingen down in Bavaria, and they've gradually just been building up their output over the last few years and doing a number of collaborations. So this was where Fuerst Wiacek really started as a gypsy brewery. But both of these guys have been working at the company full-time since March of 2019, and they've now established their own brewery in Siemensstadt in Berlin, which is kind of over to the west near Charlottenburg. But as of February 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 190 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and most of their beers are New England hazy IPAs, but there's a considerable number of fruity juicy sours in there too, and they have been trying other styles recently from what I understand as well. But yeah, this is definitely a brewery that I need to explore a little bit further, and we will be seeing about doing some dedicated reviews to these guys going forward actually. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Fuerst Wiacek for the moment. If you want to learn a little bit more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things to keep up to date with the latest goings on. And you can, of course, check out the Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So as you can see, this one is a half-litre can, which I've noticed Dugges have been doing recently. The German measurement, the half-litre is always better, I have to say. But yeah, it tells you a little bit about this beer on the side here as well. This is Cosmic Edgeland, a peachy transitional liminal floral zone of fruity, punchy hops and intensive aroma, a space between the citrusy and sweet, the rural and urban, relating to the extraterrestrial vastness, the infinite universe contra the earth alone. But yeah, I have to say it does look very, very nice actually, this one. Yeah, the artwork on this one is pretty good, as you can see, quite typical from what we've seen from Dugges before. There you can see the Dugges D. You can also see this one here, the space between. They always have little things like this, and this is one of the other Dugges Bryggeri symbols that you'll see on the cans as well back there. You'll also see this one as well, just Dugges. But you can see here too, there is that upside down? Yeah, that's upside down. You can see Fuerst Wiacek there, Berlin, which is kind of cool. But like I say, this is a half-litre can. I believe I paid 55 Swedish kroner for this one, so that is about €5.50, £5 sterling, somewhere in the region of like $6 American. But yeah, the way it goes together, yeah, I think the price value of this one for a nice half-litre, that's pretty good when it comes to Swedish prices. But like I said earlier, this one is a 6.5% New England Hazy IPA. The hops in this one are Citra, Columbus, Galaxy and Mosaic, which we know quite well. All four of these three of them are American. Galaxy is of course Australian. Citra is about 14% alpha acid. It's going to give you those lovely big mango notes and a little bit of lemon lime. Columbus is usually used as a bittering hop. It's about 12% alpha acid. It's going to give you that big kind of spicy floral character. Galaxy, of course, is the Australian one, 14% alpha acid. Normally lots of kind of pungent passion fruit, but also quite a little bit of mango and kind of pineapple and stuff like this. And then Mosaic, 14% alpha acid, once again American, and it gives you that big juicy tangerine character. But yeah, apparently this collaboration came about because both Dugges and Fuerst Wiacek were standing next to each other at the Mikkeller beer celebration in Copenhagen at one point. So they enjoyed each other's beers, and so they decided to collaborate together. So you have this collaboration beer that they've done, which is kind of cool. But yeah, let's get this guy out then, and we'll get on with the tasting. I'm very, very curious to see what happens when these two guys put their heads together. Here we are. I have to say, this does look pretty damn nice. So we've got maybe about 80% of the beer out and into the glass, and it does look very, very good. So yeah, in terms of how you would, in terms of the appearance of this one, it's pretty much as you would expect of a New England IPA. So you can see that the beer has poured with about a half finger of a frothy, I would say, very slightly cream coloured head. I don't know if I'd describe that as perfect white, but yeah, you can see mainly medium-sized bubbles from this one. Not really all that foamy, a little bit, yeah, a little bit more of a medium-sized bubble, this one, rather than very, very small bubbles. But you can see the colour of this beer is absolutely beautiful. So you've got a lovely kind of big, bright yellow colour to this one. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on, one, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, and thus you get a darker coloured beer. But any barrel aging you do or any adjuncts that you put in can affect the colour of the beer as well. But when it comes to IPAs, you know, you don't really have to care about those latter two variables. The colour of this one is mainly down to the type of malts and in this one, I have to say. But for me, this really reminds me of a very kind of bright mango juice colour, actually. I really like how this one goes together. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But yeah, you can see around the edge of the glass it has got that nice foamy ring, and it's just faded away to be a little bit of a foamy layer on the top there. But in terms of what you'd expect from a New England Hazy IPA, I think this one does go together really quite nicely, actually. So yeah, let's have a wee look at the aroma of this beer then and see what it's all about. Very curious about this. I don't think we need to say anything else about the appearance of this one. But in terms, well, actually we didn't talk about the haze. I have to say the level of haze in this beer is actually quite impressive for a 6.5%. So remember, the level of haze in a New England IPA depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree the yeast as well. But yeah, this one for a 6.5%, the haze on this is pretty impressive actually. But let's have a closer look at the aroma and just see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Yeah. Oh yeah, I have to say that does smell very, very nice. One thing I found with the Dugges New England IPAs, when I first tried them, I thought the flavour profile was really good. And this was when they were still doing the Fresh and the Crush series, of course, but they've gradually developed the mouthfeel so that they're very, very nice and thick and creamy. And that is something that I've enjoyed about the Dugges IPAs. But in recent times, probably the best IPA I've had from them has actually been a West Coaster. It was called Pinball, double West Coast IPA. I really enjoyed that one. But that's not to take anything away from the New Englands. The New Englands have been pretty damn solid in my opinion. But yeah, this one for me smells as if it's going to be a big creamy thing. The aroma of this beer strikes me as being very, very oaty in the beginning. So it's a very creamy New England IPA. This one, the green component's quite grassy, and you've got quite a pungent fruity character to this one. But as I've said to you in many reviews before as well, for me there are 6 elements to think about when it comes to New England IPAs. You know, you can get the sort of farmhousey yeasty character, you can get the barley malt bread side of things, you can also get the rye graininess, the wheaty bitiness, the oaty creaminess, and also the sweet element there. But rye and yeasty character is a little bit more prominent, I would say, in American brewed New England IPAs than European ones. But yeah, the aroma coming out of this is pretty damn nice. So let's try and break this down and just describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So yeah, aroma wise, this is pretty nice. So the backbone of the beer in this one, you can smell there's a little bit of a kind of fresh white bready bread crusts in there. That is absolutely the backbone of the beer. I will say there's nothing madly surprising about this beer in terms of its aroma, but it does come across really nicely. I do like it. So yeah, backbone of the beer, you absolutely have a little bit of that fresh white bready bread crust in there. On top of that, you have a little bit of a kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing. So that goes together very well. But then you've got lots of fluffy, fresh white bread coming out of the beer. So yeah, fluffy, fresh white bread. Yeah, fluffy, fresh white bread. You've also got a little bit of a kind of nice... You do have a little bit of wheat coming out of this one too. You can smell the wheat kind of densifying the beer a little bit. And you get a little bit of the wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose. So yeah, fresh bread crust, Jacob's cream cracker, fluffy white bread from the barley malt, the wheat's in there, but you also get the nice kind of creamy oaty character pushing its way out as well. So yeah, lovely kind of creamy oats, a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and then yeah, the way that the beer goes together in that regard is actually very, very nice. So yeah, lovely kind of big creamy oaty characters coming out of this beer actually. Yeah, so in terms of the the sweet side of this beer, there's a little touch of that kind of butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing going on, but not a lot actually. This beer strikes me as being more kind of creamy and oaty, and the oats in this beer actually do still smell quite creamy. As I said before, oats are usually a very good indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. The creamier they smell and taste, the fresher the beer is. The drier they are, the older the beer is. It's a sign of kind of aging in these beers. Alright guys, my apologies for that. Something went wrong with my phone there. But anyway, we were just about to go on to looking at the green component in the aroma. So the green component in this one is actually quite bright and quite floral. I don't get so much of the spiciness from the Columbus in this one actually. But yeah, for me, the aroma's really quite bright. There's a nice little bit of grassy, zesty character in there, but some nice bright floral aromaticity, and just a wee touch of earthiness as well. The earthiness, I think, in this beer is most likely to come from the Mosaic, actually. It's always had that little bit of earthy character to it. But yeah, the green component for me is quite bright, and you know, as I've said in reviews before, remember there are 3 different kinds of hopping when it comes to IPAs. You can do early addition hopping within the first hour of the wort boil, that gives you mainly bitterness. Late addition hopping within the last half hour of the wort boil, that gives you a little bit of bitterness but mainly flavour and aroma. And then you've got dry hopping after the wort boil is complete, and that is all flavour and aroma. New England IPAs tend to rely on the latter two, but West Coast IPAs also use a lot of early addition hopping as well. But yeah, when the green component smells brighter rather than deep and dank, usually that's an indicator of of late addition and dry hopping actually. So I do get quite a little bit of that out of this one. But yeah, the green component is very, very nice. And yeah, on the fruity side of things, it's really nice as well. The fruits are really kind of just straight up and juicy, but they've got a little bit of oily character as well for me. So definitely getting a little bit of that more pungent passion fruit. That's going to come both from the Galaxy and from the Citra. Lots of quite juicy, ripe mango. And I will say that the more I smell of this beer, the more it kind of mellows out. Actually, you get more of a juicy mango character out of this one. But yeah, strong passion fruit, big juicy mango. And then you've also got some nice kind of apricot and papaya type notes underneath it as well. But quite a little bit of bright pineapple, which I think is most likely to come from the Galaxy, to be honest with you. But I'm also getting quite a nice little bit of oily tangerine character. And for me, you know, Mosaic is very distinctive that way. Galaxy, Citra and Mosaic is a tried and tested combination. So this beer, in a lot of ways, feels very, very familiar. But I'm guessing that probably Columbus has been used in the whirlpool to give the beer a bit, pardon me, to give the beer a little bit more kind of green to it and things like that. But the aroma, I have to say, works out pretty nicely in this one. So yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about it. But as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. And I think it is about time that we taste this one. So this is the Cosmic Edgeland 6.5% ABV New England Hazy IPA from Dugges Bryggeri and Landvetter near Gothenburg here in Sweden, in collaboration with Fuerst Wiacek from Siemensstadt in Berlin down in Germany. Slange, skål, cheers, prost. Yeah, that's pretty damn nice, I have to say. But I will say straight away, it's distinctively Dugges. It really is. The reason that I say that is that it's quite light and clean, but at the same time, the further into the aftertaste you go, you just get more and more kind of creaminess out of this beer. So the way that it goes together from that perspective, I think, is very, very nice. So yeah, I like this one for sure. It's another solid New England IPA from Dugges, and it's definitely up there with what I've had from Fuerst Wiacek as well. We've had quite a few Fuerst Wiacek beers on tap in Bishop's Arms, Gustav, and Malmo, where I do some shifts, of course. So there's quite a wee bit of that going on with this one, I have to say, but I like it. This does go together really nicely in that sense. So yeah, where do we start with this one then? So as always, we'll go to the middle third of the palate and describe to you what's going on. But this is a really quite creamy and clean New England IPA. A little bit of green component, just juicy fruity character. It's actually one of these ones that kind of the flavour the sort of flavour and the aroma agree with each other, if that makes sense. You get the flavour you expect. So yeah, middle third of your palate with this beer, you can feel the backbone of the beer gives you that little bit of fresh white bready bread crust. That's absolutely coming to the fore with this one. So you feel that right away. So a little bit of fresh white bready bread crust. On top of that, you've got a nice little bit of Jacob's cream cracker dryness in there. Maybe a teeny little touch of woodiness toward the front of that middle third of your palate. So yeah, the backbone in this one is something we have kind of come across before, and it must be just something to do with the type of malt base that Dugges like to use, and potentially something to do with the yeast as well. There's no doubt a brewery that are as big as Dugges will have, they will have their own house yeasts and stuff like this these days. But yeah, fresh white bread crust, a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker, if I can speak properly, little touch of woodiness in there. On top of that though, you get a little bit of a fluffy, you get a little tiny, well actually there's a little tiny touch of a slightly wholemeal brown bread, but then you get a layer of like fluffy white bread. So that sits there above the Jacob's cream cracker for me. And you can feel that the wheat sits on top of that. And the wheat actually acts as a bit more of a kind of smoothing agent for me in this beer. The wheat doesn't overly densify this beer, which it can do in these New England hazy IPAs. So yeah, there is a good little bit of a kind of hazy New Englandy sort of thing going on with this one. So yeah, it's got that. It has got. I say it's a bit of a silly thing to say that, but yeah, it's like a very just light, easy going New England. I guess that's what I was kind of looking for. But yeah, above on top of the fluffy white bread, you can feel that slightly denser wheat layer. But like I say, that layer itself isn't too thick. But then you get the oats sitting on top of it. So down the middle line of your palate, you can feel the nice creaminess from the oats, and that spreads out to the sides of the palate a little bit. But you can feel that the oats get a little touch more. You can feel that the oats get that little touch more. Kind of. Yeah, you can feel the oats just get that little touch drier the further toward the side of the palate that you go. So yeah, sorry, someone calling me there. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, on top of the out toward the side of the palate, you get that little bit of kind of dryness from the oats. You get a wee touch of and you can feel that there. You get the nice creaminess down the middle line of your palate. Then you've also got that little bit of dryness from the oats there too. But in the dead centre of your palate, you've got a wee bit of a kind of you've got a wee bit of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type thing, and maybe just a little touch of biscuit toward the edge of your palate too. So yeah, I do like how that goes together in this one. So yeah, the way it goes together is quite nice actually. Yeah, the middle third of your palate, I think that's actually everything we really need to say about this one, to be honest with you. So border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there, and it's like a white bready character, but the base of that back third of your palate is a little bit more, the base of that back third of your palate is a little bit more kind of bread crusty, I would say. You can feel, as I always say, the kind of sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, the more bitter and dry flavours come out a little bit further back. So yeah, you get that nice kind of bread crusty character there, but it is a little bit more grainy. You can feel that the crackery flavours on top of that are also a little bit drier and more grainy. And then above all of that, you've got a more fluffy white bready character as well. So you can feel that white bready character is a little bit lighter and more airy actually, and it's that layer is just a lot taller on the back third of the palate than it is in the middle third. But yeah, above all of that, you've got a little bit of wheaty bitiness in there. Above all of that, you've got a little bit of the wheaty bitiness, and you can just feel it is that bit more bitey on the back third of the tongue too. And then above everything else, you've got the more kind of airy, yeasty type esters coming out of the beer. So you can feel that very light, farmhousey type bread thing, and there's just a little touch of honeycomb in that for me as well. But definitely the back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of the palate, it just squashes down and compresses together, which I do quite like. So yeah, I like that with this one. The malty side of this beer is quite nice, but it's very familiar. It does feel like quite a few of the other Dugges New England IPAs that I've had before, and I guess it's just the malt combination and the yeast that Dugges are using that makes the flavour quite distinctive. I think if I was to try this beer blind, I might be able to pick up that it is a Dugges IPA. I've got a feeling that I could. But yeah, on to the green component of this beer then. So we'll start at the back corners of the palate, as we always do. So, back corners of the palate, you've got that nice little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward though, you do really, this is where the flavour actually deviates a little bit from the aroma. You do really start to get that nice big floral aromaticity out of this one. You can feel that sort of spicy floral character from the Columbus, and for me that indicates they have used a little bit of Columbus in the whirlpool with this one, because yeah, you get that big spicy floral character all the way to the front corners of your palate, but then round the front curve of the tongue you've got a little bit of a lighter but still kind of wet grassy character coming out of this one, and there's a wee touch of zestiness there too, and that's most likely to come from the Galaxy, the Citra and the Mosaic that are in this beer. But yeah, the green component does have a significant bit of that kind of more spicy Columbus type flavour out of it. But yeah, so I think that covers the green component. Border region between front third and middle third of your palate. You've got a nice little bit of kind of bready build up in this one. Again, it's like a soft fluffy white bread. Then the base of that front third of your palate, you've got a little bit of the bread crust, a wee touch of the cracker, then a wee bit of just the straight up white bread from the barley malt. But above that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. But for me, the fruity character is kind of what I was expecting it to be. At the back of that front third of your palate, you definitely get that stronger passion fruit. That's coming from both the Citra and the Galaxy. But then, yeah, you start to get the more, as you move further forward, you get the juicy and quite ripe mango character. And as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, in the base, you've got the drier apricots, little touch of papaya. I think the papaya is most likely to come from the Citra, I think, in this one. And above that, you've got the pineapple, which I think is more likely to be the Galaxy. But the front half of that front third of your palate is that more oily, tangerine flavour that you would expect of Mosaic. So yeah, quite a wee bit of that coming out of this beer for me. So yeah, I do like how everything sort of pieces together in this one, and it gets a thumbs up. It does get a thumbs up for me on the fruity side of things. A little bit of pungent passion fruit, soft and juicy mango, bit of pineapple, bit of apricot, then the more oily tangerine orange. So yeah, everything you'd kind of expect when you think about the hop combination in this one. So yeah, gets a thumbs up from me. Definitely, I think one of the more floral Dugges beers that I've had actually in recent times when it comes to the IPA category as well. So yeah, the Fuerst Wiacek ones, in my experience, they can vary quite a little bit, but I've had quite a few of those at work in recent times, tasted quite a few of them. But yeah, I think this goes together quite nicely. Let's round off this review with a wee look at the mouthfeel then. So, for me, the mouthfeel is quite mid-bodied, right in the middle of the spectrum. Carbonation is very smooth. This beer does have an element of creaminess to it for sure, but it also still feels quite clean and kind of slick in a way, and I think that is maybe just the Swedish water, to be honest with you. I've always found that Nordic beers feel very, very clean. I think that's a general overview of the beer. When it comes to the IBUs, you've got, I want to say this one's slightly more bitter. It's maybe about 40-ish IBUs, but that could just be the spiciness from the Columbus that's given that impression. So yeah, a good little bit of spicy floral character for me in this one. You've got a little bit, the green component though, as I say, about 40 IBUs. The malt base, like we said, there's a bit of dryness underneath, a bit of smoothness and a little touch of creaminess. Not much in the way of sweetness with this one, I would say. It is quite light on its sweet character. It does become more oaty and creamy the further into the aftertaste you go. Then as we said, the tropical fruit in this one is the kind of, for me the tropical fruit is a bit more dominant. It's more a smooth tropical fruit flavour, but you also just get that little bit of oily orange in there too. So yeah, I do like the way that this beer goes together. Actually gets a big thumbs up from me. This one, another very solid New England IPA from Dugges Bryggeri, and definitely cool to see them collaborating with Fuerst Wiacek as well. Yeah, nothing unexpected with this one, but a very nicely done beer, and these days with New England IPAs you can't ask for much more. So I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Cosmic Edgeland, a 6.5% New England Hazy IPA from Dugges Bryggeri in Landvetter, just outside of Gothenburg here in Sweden, brewed in collaboration with Fuerst Wiacek from Siemensstadt in Berlin down in Germany. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Dugges and from Fuerst Wiacek. We will no doubt return to both of these breweries at some point in the near future. But until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers. I'll see you guys very soon. Check out my social media, check out their social media, and there will be more reviews very shortly. Slàinte, Skål, cheers, Prost.